Today we're talking about the importance of diversity and equity in education. Let us start with what do we mean by diversity. Diversity now is taking a whole another notion of not just being diversity in ability or diversity in race, gender, religion, or orientation. It's pretty much touching all aspects in our life. What makes us all special in the universe is that we are all diverse. Diversity makes us all completing each other. We need diversity to run our life. We need diversity to be impressed. We need diversity to enjoy things. When it comes to education, we need diversity as a human right-based approach. Equity is the same as well. For years and years, people have been talking about equality and equal opportunities. In the last 20 years, the notion or the concept of equity appeared. Equality means that if we are going for a race, everybody is starting at the same whistle, at the same start line, and they have the same finish line. That is equality, and giving each one an equal opportunity. Equity means that we take the diverse needs of every person when we plan, design, implement, and execute such race, to make sure that we are all taking into account our differences. It is a right to take into account differences. It is a right to approach people and to do what we call reasonable adjustment to support their needs. It's okay to do equity. It is not okay just to be equal, because equal doesn't mean equitable. And this is my approach now to talk about equity in education and taking diversity and equity as one bundle when we deal with educational needs. For years and years, people with different needs have not been justified in education systems, and this is all the way from kindergarten to higher education, even to postgraduate degrees. At the moment, the whole talk is about being equitable in education by giving way, by adding time for examination, by supporting the needs of all learners inside the regular classroom. Mainstreaming alone is not equity, is equality, but mainstreaming with a reasonable adjustment to meet the needs of each learner is equity. What we hope for in a global, approachable needs here is we're hoping for equity in education. How do we achieve equity? Now we talked about how it is important. How do we achieve equity in a diverse education system? First of all, we need to talk about this, the notion of ability, because for years and years, people decided on approaching entrance to education systems, going up in an education system, leaving education systems based on one thing only, their basically their ability, academic ability and academic achievements. In the last 10-15 years also, many universities and many schools are looking at the diverse need in order to support all learners. Even selective schools themselves, they even go on for that. They're supporting all learners inside their regular classroom. How do we achieve this difficult equation? Being equitable to all people with different needs, and also being supportive and having an education system that is supporting to everyone at the same time, including those who are in both spectrums, those with difficulties in learning and those with exceptionality in a way that they are overachievers and, as we call, gifted and talented. A good education system achieve equity through four things. First of all, as I always say, the 4 P's of appreciation of equity. Let's talk about the 4 P's in order to have a good, inclusive, diverse, equitable education system. First of all, we talk about the policy. If we take the Emirates, for example, the United Arab Emirates as a place where policy is in practice, you see that the United Arab Emirates ratified the United Nations Conventions on the Rights of People with Disabilities as a diverse group or as a minority group. And by ratifying the United Nations Conventions on the Rights of People with Disabilities, the UNRCPT as we call it for short, the country is obliged to support such people in all aspects, in health, employment and education. If we talk about how the country is doing this in education, it's cascading down from the Ministry of Education to the LEA, the local education authorities. Local education authorities have their own regulations, and the regulator must ensure that every single child inside the classroom is being equitable when it comes to supporting his needs. the policy out there, which is the UNRCPG, is translated or interpreted into other policies locally to support equity in the classroom, because the country said I would do, so now the country is doing this. A lot of local and federal legislation support equity in education. It started from the 2006 law number 19 and other local laws and legislation, ending here, for example, with 2017 People of Determination national policy. And the national policy for people of determination, it supports people with special needs, as we call them here in the United Arab Emirates, people of determination, in all aspects, including education. So this is how policy is cascading all the way from international laws and legislation to regional, to local, to even the school around the corner is actually obeying this through the inspection. The inspector would come and make sure that every child who's been admitted to this school, despite his strengths or weaknesses, are seen too. So this is how policy, this is the first B, the policy. The second B is the practice. How such a school, taking into account all these policies coming from the United Nations into the ground. So the practice must be shown to all teachers, admin staff, other people in the school, to take into account this little guy who is in our classroom with diverse needs. So the practice must reflect the policy, and we have indicators to support the school to do this. The inspector would come in and make sure such indicators, sometimes they are in a framework, sometimes they are in a blueprint, sometimes it's a local policy here that inside the school to tell people what to do when they admit a child with different needs. So this is the practice. The practice includes professional development. The practice include regular training. The practice include even going to conferences and learning the latest trends and issues that are related to equity in education. Then we move into another P that is important, which is the place. Where is the place that would cater for this child? Inclusion, diversity, and equity mean one thing. All children, regardless of their strength and needs, are inside the regular classroom as much as we can. And we do in what we call reasonable adjustment to make sure that they are cared for inside the regular classroom. Sometimes a decision is made by the head of inclusion or the person who is looking after the how the policy is applied in practice in the school, and the decision is made to do a pull-out. Pull-out is not really a form of inclusion, but it's a provision. Ideally, we'd have the child with his peers all the time. This is equity. But for the best interest of the child, sometimes we need concentration, so we do what we call it pull-out. Pull-out sessions are designed for concentration and focus. If the child has ADHD and he has an issue with concentration in a busy classroom, if the environment is not supporting the needs of the child, then the child is pulled out. So pull out, push in, having a shadow teacher in the class, having an LSA, learning support assistant that support him and other people. There are literally tens of options that we can have inside the place, inside the school, in order to support this student. And then last but not least, people argue that if we have a place for the child, and it is written in an individual plan for equity, and if we have a practice that is known for the entire school, and if we have a policy that is adhered to, so what we are missing here? People say that the practitioner is actually the person who will be basically looking after the child is very important to work on him individually. The career path, the development. For example, in the Emirates here, in Dubai, for example, or in Abu Dhabi, you'd have a person who's looking after the supportive needs for the child as head of inclusion. And of course, inclusion needs, it includes everybody, not just the educational inclusion, it's social, emotional, etc. So this person, the title for that is head of inclusion. A few years ago, it was a champion, inclusion champion. Other areas in other countries, you will call it SENCO, Special Education Needs Coordinator. I don't care that much about the title, but I care about accountability of a person who looks after the diversity. But guess what? All these P's now are moving forward with something new. Here, for example, at the British University in Dubai, we're moving away from the speciality, teaching all learners doing their master's degree and doctoral degree about diversity, equity, and inclusion. So each and every one of them seeking a master's degree will learn in detail about this. And this is where the world is heading as well. We are in with the latest trends and issues, and people now are doing away with one person who's only accountable for this, and they want every single individual inside the school to become a head of inclusion. to become an inclusion specialist, to become a mindful practitioner who's reflective, who understands the value of inclusivity, diversity, and equity. And this is a new trend now. So as basically British University in Dubai is a leader for equity and diversity, taking this into, as they say, a head start, and teaching all from September, we'll be teaching every single individual in every master's and doctor program about equity and diversity, because those who are taken into responsibility of adhering to equity, it is not just a department, it's a supportive need for every child that he must have. So every teacher, every middle manager, every person who's a science educator or English education should take equity into account. Equity, diversity, and inclusion is not a trendy title that people like or take or write on papers. Equity, diversity, and inclusion is a serious matter that every school and every teacher must study, learn, and implement, because simply it is a right. I wish every teacher and every practitioner in the education system support equity and take it as a right, human right based approach, not a luxury. Diversity, inclusion, and equity is not something that we should have because we are cool. It is something that we should adhere to because it's a right. I wish you all a happy, inclusive, and equitable education system.